Nobody likes a bigot unless he's crying boo-hoo like a big baby. Boo-hoo when shedding a tear and crying like a gator with self-loathing and low self-esteem. Let's take the esteem down even lower now.
Hey guys, what's going on? So, you know Randy Pitchford, the crown prince of video game tomfoolery? He made a blunder, pretty big one, trying to justify an $80 price tag for his upcoming game Borderlands 4, and then guilt-tripping people into spending that money. That obviously didn't go very well at all, but then what he did was, in pure Randy Pitchford fashion, he doubled down. So before we get into gamersplaining to this guy why his $80 price tag for Borderlands 4 is utterly ridiculous, let me show you guys what happened first, in case you aren't aware yet. So, some poor guy sent a good faith warning to Randy Pitchford in regards to the price of Borderlands 4. He said, "Randy, this game better not be $80, don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase of the price tag." And he's totally right. I don't want to get too much into it right now in the intro because we will be covering this fully in a second. Pricing a game at $80 is a risk. To some extent, I think that we're seeing something similar happening with Doom Dark Ages. It's not an $80 game, but it is a $70 game amidst a lot of other better priced games that we've seen coming out in the past couple of months. Its sales have been underwhelming. Xbox reported 3 million players because of the Game Pass, but honestly, I could care less about player numbers. I could literally be one of them, as I still have some leftover days on my Game Pass subscription from the last time that I renewed it to play recent Xbox titles for review purposes. I downloaded the game, but I haven't really bothered to dip in yet. I've just been way too busy having too much fun with Expedition 33 and Atomfall to commit to it. A sale is $70. A player is at best $18 for the subscription, and at worst even less than that because they already had an active subscription to begin with. A sale is a big commitment. It actually shows that people were attracted by this game. Player engagements, on the other hand, mean very little and enable slop. Avowed was boasted to have 6 million players, for example. Who cares? It's a fart in the wind. The director just left the studio and DLC plans are up in the air. Sales are where it's at, and even though Dark Ages is probably not a flop, nor a bad game, I think the $70 fatigue thing is a real thing. We've seen it gradually happening. We'll expand more on this in just a bit. Now imagine how much worse this fatigue is going to be with $80 games. But anyway, Randy Pitchford's reply was a legendary case of out-of-touch idiocy. He said, A, it's not my call. B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991, when I was just out of high school working a minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen.
هلا عبود هلا عبود هلا يا ساتر يا ساتر.
Like, what the fuck was this? And why is he so pressed when, with this, A, it's not my call, B, blah blah blah, it's like he was already pre-triggered by this notion of a price. Randy has a massive problem here. We're not real fans, and this isn't Starflight for the Sega Genesis back in 1999. I mean 1991. We're just fans, and especially potential new buyers. And he's just making the 4th entry in the Borderlands franchise. Not a bad franchise, but hardly anything to be a real fan of. Hardly anything that has much weight these days. Randy is overestimating this franchise to a massive degree. I know we tried to expand this brand and make it a big mainstream thing with that movie, but the movie ended up being terrible. And those who remember Borderlands 3 will remember its major flaws, some of which the Borderlands 4 reveal seems to commit to fixing and adding to, but we obviously won't be able to truly know until the game is out. and while there were things that I liked seeing, like some of the new weapon types and movement options, none of them come even close to justifying the $20 increase over the $60 that I paid for and regretted for Borderlands 3 back in 2019. Borderlands 3 was successful. Randy even says that he owes this sequel and its larger budget to the success of that third game, which is just nuts to me. It shows that stupid problematic mindset that so many studios in this industry have, where they just double down on budgets, wanting to make everything even bigger, even better, even prettier, even this and even that. But that in the end, the result is a few improvements or additions over the same exact formula for double the budget, which is what Borderlands 4 is shaping up to be if that reveal gameplay showcase is anything to go by, and if Randy Pitchford's statement that I'm about to show you guys in a second is also anything to go by. Despite Borderlands 3 bringing in a lot of money, there were major issues all around that made it an inferior game to Borderlands 2. One of the biggest problems was the terrible writing and characters. The humor in this game just did not hit most of the time. It was terrible. Seriously, if you guys ever replay this game, pay extra attention to how much of the dialogue that is given to the player is meant to be a stupid fucking joke that just doesn't land. So much millennial/Marvel writing, so many corny jokes, so many stupid references, so much stupidity in the script, like literally stupid dialogue, stupid jokes, no wit, no smarts, no subtlety, nothing, just dumb dialogue and subversions. These are the things that ended up tainting the game despite it having done very well in terms of sales, because when it came to gameplay, they did do a good job refining the formula and making the loop satisfying, even if other aspects were poor. I personally prefer to go back to the second game and the pre-sequel whenever I'm in the mood, instead of going for 3, but whatever. Regardless, it may not be Randy's call to price his game, but it is his game and his studio. If there's anyone who has a strong voice to advocate for positive change, both for us and consequently for developers and publishers as well, it's him. He simply doesn't do it because he doesn't want to. In fact, he defends it because he does want it to be $80. He thinks he's going to sell another 20 million or so copies, just like the third game did over the years, and he would like to do so at $80 a piece instead of $60. What he's forgetting is that Borderlands 3 came after Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, which were the height of the franchise. It took its sweet time to cook and people were hungry. Hype was in the air and it was a good time to release a fast and fluid shooter. Such conditions are sadly not the same in 2025. It's time for people like Randy Pitchford to stop being ambivalent about these things or straight up defending the greed themselves. It would be a pretty good thing to have some voices in the industry instead of this nonsense of, oh, if you're a real fan, you'll spend $80 and consume product while waiting for next product. You'll figure out a way to spend $80 on my video game, and by the time that Borderlands 5 comes out, maybe it'll be $90, and I'm sure that you'll find a way to make it happen then too. And by Borderlands 6, who knows, $100 for the standard version, because why not? If you're a real fan, you will find a way. This pricing is prejudicial for everyone. We're not up for paying for it. Certainly not for yet another entry in the okay-ish Borderlands franchise, whose movie last year only went to taint the franchise's name even worse than the cringe-fast characters in the third game could ever dream to do. And if we're not up for paying for it, the studios and the publishers are going to suffer. We keep banging on the same point over and over. A lower entry point will get you much more sales than a higher one, but these people only see one thing. They think, hell, if I'm gonna sell like 10 gazillion copies, I want to sell them at $80 instead of $60 because that means more money. The price of a game absolutely does matter when it comes to moving copies. It's not just how the game looks anymore. The game can actually look great, but if you're charging $80 for it, you should realize that maybe looking great is just not enough. At the end of the day, this is your show, as in the industry's show. If they want to bet on an $80 price point, then they need to acknowledge and take on the consequences that that decision brings. A $50 game is a game that can have a lot of flaws that people are willing to let go of. A $60 game, less so, but still the bar is lower. At $70, you better damn well be giving me a memorable premium experience, something that isn't measured in how big the open world is or how many particle effects there are in explosions or or whatever. This is measured in the writing, the fun factor and adventure being something detailed, rich, artfully made, and of a level that is higher than average. I can understand that these things can be subjective, especially when judging one's own work, but it is a company's job to make sure that they have a good, unbiased understanding of this through third-party sources if necessary, and then in the end the true outcome will truly only be known when it's actually out and the court of public opinion speaks. But at $80? You better be giving me the next Red Dead Redemption 2, the next Witcher 3, the next Elden Ring, the next Baldur's Gate 3, etc. Know what I mean? You better be giving me something that will define its year of release, something that will mark a generation, not another fucking IGN 7 or 8. We may not be able to control how much money studios are going to charge for their games, but we are in full control of the value that we attribute to these games, and as long as amazing experiences keep releasing and showing the mediocrity and the reality of overly inflated budgets in AAA, then you will never have a world where a game like Borderlands 4 releases at $80 and people think that that's just a totally normal and acceptable price to pay for it. Following the backlash to his ridiculous statement, Randy doubled down with this video where he once again answers the question of Borderlands 4 pricing situation. I'll show you guys some bits of it. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can find it on his Twitter page. The gist of it is a repetition of what he told that other guy, plus some whining about conditions in the industry while simultaneously admitting that his company is cooked because they overblew the budget of Borderlands 4 to around 30 million. Fuck, 30 I wish. $300 million. Here's the clip.
What would the game's price be?
I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. Game budgets are increasing, and there's tariffs for the retail packaging, and like it's getting gnarly out there, you guys. Borderlands 4 has more than twice the development budget than Borderlands 3. I do know that we will be opening pre-orders soon, TM, and that will be when the price is set. It might be the new price that like Nintendo and Microsoft have led with. It might be that we stay back. It's going to be the people at the publishing house that decide that. We'll know soon. Yeah. I think it's going to be fine, whatever it ends up being. I think it's going to be amazing, whatever it is. Borderlands is amazing, and it's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah.
And nobody likes a bigot unless he's...
Shut your fucking mouth! No problem, John. Shut the fuck up, you
Okay, let's actually talk about the truth. The truth is that Borderlands' recent games weren't even that good. Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina Wonderlands are great sales games, you know, the type of games that you pick up at a lower price or on a sale to kinda just chew on the side. That's about it though. These aren't really games that inspire or tell amazing stories. In fact, it does the opposite, especially Borderlands 3, and it's not even a case where someone can say that I outgrew the humor of Borderlands, because I can go back and play the second game anytime and have fun. And it's not because of nostalgia either. I only ever played the second game fully after Borderlands 3. The writing and storytelling in the third game are just worse than the writing and the storytelling in the second game. It's as simple as that. These games also aren't games that provide immersion. I could see it with the second game a little bit. I was actually very invested despite the mechanics feeling even older than they already did in Borderlands 3, which is another point I will get to in a second, but otherwise it's just another looter shooter. You roam around, play with a weapon until you find a better weapon, have some fun, and then put it away when you buy a main game or feel like switching. It's a great background game. It's entertaining, it's engaging, it's easy to follow, etc., but it's just not even the type of game that is worth $80. It's honestly not even worth $70 to be fair with you. As for the mechanics, like, this is the thing that gets me. Borderlands is capable of spending hundreds of millions of dollars in development, and then deadass look at you and go, oh, but look at how much cooler this one is. And then the main changes in the experience are, for example, in Borderlands 3, you could slide and you could hop up on a surface process that you jump towards. Already at the time I was thinking, man, I know this is Borderlands and not, other different shooters, and not every shooter needs this, but man, this really could use some air dodges or a double jump or a jetpack or something, because the way that the game was structured was just asking for it, but it just wasn't there. And now it is there in Borderlands 4, and it's like, okay, cool, nice. This one will definitely be more fun to move around on and traverse, but you look at the budget, and it's fucking double that of Borderlands 3, as stated by Randy in that video. Now, regulars of the channel already know how I feel about games that do this. I already complained about how Spider-Man 2 spent $315 million, and I find it a total scam. Like, there's no justifying where all that money went. It's just not feasible to picture it, let alone spend it. And even though I'm sure that Borderlands 4 will be playable for many more hours than Spider-Man 2, the issue remains. How do you spend so much money on a game like this? Where's the improvements and additions that justify this? Because I'm sorry, but these additional traversal mechanics, a new weapon manufacturer with new weapon types, and for example that addition of replacing grenades with these big ass chargeable guns, is just not justifying it at all. It's not that these are bad additions, I'm sure they're going to be enjoyable, but how do you just spend so much money on this? How do you spend? Where did all that money go to? It's just ridiculous, frivolous, irresponsible spending. And you see what happens when companies do this? Oh, it's gnarly out there. Oh, if you're a real fan, you'll spend the $80. And you already know how these people are going to do. They're going to do exactly what they did with Borderlands 3. Cake it with expansions and DLCs. And of course, microtransactions. The least they could fucking do is keep the game at $60 when doing that, but you just know that that's not the plan. You know the plan is base price, $80, deluxe editions and etc. at even more exorbitant prices, and then season passes, expansions and microtransactions on top of all that. Like, bitch, it's not my fault that you don't know how to spend money. It's not my fault that if I was your dad and I give you $10 and I told you, hey son, hey Randy, go get me some bread from the baker. It's not my fault that you would show up at home spending the entire $10 fucking and only brought me like one bread broken in half or some shit. Like, what the fuck? It's not my fault that you can't spend money. It's not my fault that you can't run a business properly. Don't come begging me for $80 just because you're worse at managing your company than Michael Scott.
The Fundamentals of Business by Michael Scott. Over 1 billion sold. Chapter 1. The businessman.
The cost of living in general is higher, and therefore the cost of development is also higher, but this is just not at all attributable to the rising costs of development. This is moronic spending. You can go up on stage and try to fool people with that act going off about development costs and how it's gnarly out there, guys. But you're not fooling anyone with half a brain, which is just about enough to compare your game to other games and compare the new game to the previous game, compare their budgets, and realize that the story is just not adding up. These studios will go all out in their corporatization, inflate themselves with people who don't need to be there, spending money on shit that doesn't make sense, to the point where the budget to make a single looter shooter game that mostly looks the same as the last one gets out of hand to an insane degree, and then their representatives will go online and moan about it, calling it inflation, or bringing up old games, just like the Nintendo shills did. Why the fuck do I care what something cost when it was like $90.91? You wanna know what I was doing when in 1991? I was swimming in my dad's balls. And if we don't buy it, it's because we're not true fans, as if that shit even meant anything at all as well. Like, seriously, the merch stores that I sometimes treat myself through, by getting like a t-shirt or a hat or a mug or a keychain, etc. from some of my favorite franchises, they don't even have anything at all for sale from Borderlands. I've never seen a single Borderlands piece of merch. Like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? Or what does he think that he's working on here? Call of Duty? GTA? Fallout? Brother, this is just Borderlands. If you're expecting only real fans to come and buy this, you're gonna be disappointed. I swear, this guy saw all of those game sales for Borderlands 3 and he just lost his mind. Immediately went to make a movie, thinking that he was hot shit. The movie ended up, well, actual shit. And now he thinks that Borderlands is $80 material. I enjoyed the gameplay showcase well enough. It looked neat, but that's about it. I wasn't hankering for the return of Borderlands. I don't know anyone who is. Price it higher than $60 and I'm straight up deadass not getting it at launch. It's just not worth it, especially not this year. Have you seen the bangers that have released already and the upcoming ones plus DLCs to games that I'll be aching to return to? Randy Pitchford needs to get back in touch with reality. Borderlands is not a pop culture icon. It's a franchise well past its prime that has been slipping into the slop category with each new title that releases with an underwhelming story and writing that doesn't at all capitalize on its wild and mysterious universe, or capitalize on the writers that made the second game work so well. And not being considered a real fan is like if a footballer shows up next to me and tells me I'm not considered a true Manchester United fan unless I buy tickets to every game. Like, why the fuck would I care? Manchester is cool and all, but I just don't give a shit, brother. It's like, oh, you're not a true fan of this thing that is kind of, you know, just sort of okay and not particularly relevant. And since we're on a roll of handing out truths, here's another one. Publishers aren't struggling because the price of a standard copy of a game isn't high enough. They're struggling because they can't move as many copies as they wish, and increasing the price tag from $70 to $80 isn't going to incentivize anyone to do it rather than when it was $70. Why do I even need to be saying this? It's that obvious. The worst part actually is that this goes on to making things worse in multiple ways. One is the easiest one. The game is more expensive. $80 is just pushing it too far. Good luck getting people to budge on that. Game dev costs are up? Guess what? So are the groceries, and your $80 game is not a priority over other cheaper ones. 2 is you're disrespecting your customers. You're treating them like they're just either stupid, broke, or not real fans. Or all three at the same time. Especially when you go off about development costs while we literally have games of higher quality being developed with far less money. I mean, wake the fuck up, you lunatic. $300 million on a Borderlands game? A pew-pew game? Are you out of your mind? Anyway, and 3, my favorite by the way, you're setting the standard by which you will be judged and you don't even see it. These people aren't even aware of what they're doing to themselves, and it's hilarious. I've mentioned this in passing before, but let me reiterate and add more detail here. If this game was $60, I would have seen that trailer and I would have gone, huh, that's neat, I'll check it out. If it was $70, I'd already be taking a step back and postponing on buying it until it dropped price because I'm just not spending that much money on a game that you play in the background while watching shit on YouTube. Even if the game is not like that, I'm already apprehensive a little bit, which is the case with Doom Dark Ages. My subscription is going to end very soon. I'm still kind of late on Atomfall, I'm still finishing it. I know very well that when I'm done with it, the subscription is probably going to be off, and then at that point I will prefer to buy the game instead of buying another subscription. When I buy the game, I'm intending on picking it up for like $50 instead of $70. There's just no reason for me to spend that much money on a game. Again, fellas, dear executives, dear game journalists, dear Randy Pitchfords of this world who pretend as if they have no power and no say whatsoever next to the implacable publisher. If you want to charge me $70 for a game, you better fucking believe that I will be expecting a product that is well above average. A product that is supposedly so good, offering me an experience so memorable that it goes out of its way to separate itself from other smaller budget games like Atomfall, Expedition 33, or even Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, for example, which I believe was $60 as well. 3 fantastic games this year, my favorite picks so far, although admittedly I haven't played Doom yet, I haven't played Yakuza yet, I haven't played Monster Hunter Wilds or Kazan. I really need to get around to those games. But anyway, back on track. These are the standards you're setting at $70 whether you like it or not. You may whinge and you may whine and beg for pity points, going off about development costs and all this shit, but you're not fooling anybody. In reality, you are in one of 2 positions. Either you're trying to screw us out of more money because you just can, you're a shameless cumfuck company, or you're in a terrible managerial position where your company is so bloated and held back by incompetence that you can't make a simple game without spending hundreds of millions of dollars on shit that you can't even keep track of. That's it, it's either option 1 or 2. Either way, this whole pity party is not flying. And when you price games at $70, again, whether you like it or not, whether you are aware of it or not, you are setting those expectations. And so that's what we're expecting. And if we don't see anything that matches that, we're just not shelling out the money. It's as simple as that. And we are naturally also going to be harsher when judging these games. You can't just increase the price of a game and expect us to keep our expectations the same, or to hell, even to lower them. And so now, when you come out with the $80 price tag, you can just forget it. You know how fucking special a game has to be for me to shell out 80 bucks. It has to be literally something so special that it make me shit myself. It has to be a legendary status game. Games I only feel for very rarely. Stuff like Skyrim, Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, Sekiro, Cyberpunk 2077 before finding out that it was fucked up at launch, Elden Ring, etc. Or something that I just personally hold very dear and can't resist based off of being a hoe for, such as the Jedi games or the Metro series. To add more perspective, I am a big fan of Sony stuff. I don't do the console/platform war cringe, I just want to play some good games, that's it, no matter the platform. And like, I was there day one for Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Spider-Man, Death Stranding, and Ghost of Tsushima, and even then, I wouldn't buy these games at launch for $80. I already skipped God of War Ragnarok at launch back in 2022 at $70. I got it last year at $40 or $45. And it's not even that I would only value Ragnarok at $40 or $45, I actually loved that game, despite the cringe-inducing blatant blackwashing of a character in Norse mythology. It's just that I refused to pay $70 for it. And then, once that launch hype was gone and I got busy playing other things, the game became a very easy thing for me to wait for. This is what guys like Randy Pitchford don't understand about the nature of a competitive market. The people who get ahead aren't the ones charging more, it's the ones charging competitively. They also don't understand just how many games we have that we can busy ourselves with while waiting for price drops because we found that the initial price that you asked for was just not worth it. And I'm not saying that you can't make a revolutionary banger that will break through, of course you can. Any of the games I mentioned were special to me, and I could see myself buying any of them. Same with Baldur's Gate 3 for example, and people would pay for them, but Randy Pitchford and other higher-ups in this industry have to be utterly delusional if they think that something like Borderlands belongs in that same league or category. It just doesn't, dude. It's not even in the same orbit. And of course I understand that these publishers, these executives, they can't get real in public. Like, of course when you're selling a game you want to hype it up to the moon and back. You want to send the image that this is the best thing, even if it's not. But internally, they shouldn't have that fucking delusion. They should know, they should admit it to themselves so that they can actually price their games competitively at a value that makes sense for what they're offering. And they also should do that for the purposes of properly managing these games and their budgets. Toxic positivity in a studio leads to extremely dangerous delusions of grandeur. That true value has to be derived from the game itself, not how much money they are spending in making it. A game's budget says nothing about its quality. If it did, Concord would be hotter than Fortnite right now, instead of it barely holding up for 2 weeks before getting shut down. If these executives and higher-ups at these studios, publishers, and companies aren't able or willing to do it for themselves, then we'll be happy to do it in their stead, but it's sadly not going to be in the way that makes them happy or satisfied if we're talking about situations like these where they overestimate what they have and come out of the gate with stupid statements like, oh, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to shell out $80 for yet another Borderlands game. Guys, it's gnarly out there. Like, big dog, we actually do have $80. It's not that we don't have $80, but we just so happen to have 70 or 60, meaning that we're just missing an extra 10 or 20 at the end of the month. It's impossible because of that. No. It's simply that your game is now worth $80, and your reasoning for justifying the $80 price tag are delusional. It's not just yours either, of course, Nintendo's reasoning is batshit insane too. Everyone's is. There's truly no justification for it, at least not in the AAA space. The reasons for the price increase are totally lacking, they are based in lies or copium, and they're disrespectful to say the least. And if the price increase was to be accepted, nothing good would come of it. You'd still be wasting hundreds of millions of dollars like fucktards while whinging and whining and pity-partying about low sales. So again, no thanks. F your game, f your pricing, f your ambivalent little way of pushing for it, playing pretend as if you don't know how much your game is going to cost, playing pretend as if you have no say in it whatsoever, playing it off as if you're just some poor innocent pencil pusher or just one of your fellow developers rather than the goddamn founder of the studio. You've always had the reputation of a liar and a swindler. You've always had a record of talking mad shit to the point where you're advised to keep your mouth shut instead of making situations worse. You are a top earner and a higher up at Gearbox, and you just fucked yourself over on that tweet and now on this video because you're so out of touch with reality that you actually thought that bullshit line appealing to true fandom would work, followed by these excuses of development costs which have already been debunked time and time again. Best of luck getting your game off of the hot water that you got it into. I was actually feeling rather okay towards Borderlands 4. I saw the reveal, there were things that I liked. Admittedly, there were also things that I disliked, like the characters. We never really got groups like the ones we saw in the first and second game. But I saw the gameplay, I saw the verticality, I saw the new movement options, the new traversal stuff besides the usual vehicles, and I was actually feeling okay towards it. This has gone on to sour the entire thing. A potential $80 price tag, an insanely bloated $3 million budget, and a fucking magician trying to convince me that oh no, it's actually really justifiable because we're stupid and we bloated their studio to fuck, so now we're incapable of making a game responsibly with a realistic budget. Besides, if you're a real fan, you'll make it work. I'm sure you'll be able to scrounge up $80 and spend it on us instead of a myriad of other great options releasing this year or other lower price ones from your backlogs. Good job, Randy. Keep sucking. Anyway, that's the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do consider hitting the like button to help it reach some more sauce seekers, and subscribe if you're new, you know, for more sauce in the future. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.